Howdy, Aquarius pals and friends and enthusiasts. I'm working on stays and I have this kink in my head stay right here, and you can't get rid of it except to exchange it. So I bought some new cable from West Marine and a swage tool. These are plated copper swages. This one's like a not plated copper swage. So it should be easy to do. I'm going to mess with them in a second. This one I'm going to redo when the mast comes down. I need it exact, but this is my first attempt, and you can see it's kind of lopsided, if you see that. And this one's not. The reason I got it lopsided is because I tried to do it with a very short amount of cable, but if you give yourself like 10 inches or so, you could probably keep that out, because it's trying to unwind itself. The longer it is, the less likelihood it's going to unwind. But I have some other cable and some Home Depot aluminum swages, and I'm going to put one of those together right now and see how that looks compared to this. Okay, in a sec. Alright, so I bought this swaging tool from West Marine for like 25 bucks. On here it says swage tool made in USA, number 2. It does a 16th, 1/32, and 1/8 inch cable ferrules. And here's some ferrules. These are the zinc plated copper ones, and these are the Home Depot aluminum ones. Aluminum ones are probably plenty strong. They seem a little like fatter. I'm going to squish one on in a minute. But I wouldn't use these anywhere near salt water, especially with a stainless steel cable. You'd probably get some white corrosion inside, and you could lose your rigging. Only fresh water, even that. Maybe like a clothesline or something, or something not important. I wouldn't put it on anything that you rely on, that you would, bet your life on. And these thimbles are also zinc plated steel. They might last a couple of years and then rust out. Around salt, forget it, might last a season. These are the ones from West Marine. These are stainless steel, and notice how tight they are, which makes them difficult to use, except with like flexible cable. But with shroud cable, it's pretty difficult because these lines are pretty close to being parallel. So here's that ferrule again. You notice the cable is tucked way inside there. That's because this one gets put on first, then the cable gets trimmed, and then it's slid on, and then once this squeezes, it'll swell back like this and cover the end of the cut, and it leaves a nice, a nice finish. All right, so on to the next thing. I'm going to put a cable together, which is this one down here. So I don't even have to cut it. And if you notice that this cable is wound a little differently. This one's considered ultra flexible, I guess. This is what you'd find like on the center board of the Aquarius over here. So let's get started. Okay, I'm wearing the body cam device. So let's see if we can get this done in one take. Okay, grinder works, swage tool. Here's the cable I'm going to be using. Cut this off and open this out a little bit. This end's a little opened up. That should be all right. So how do I want to do this? This is going to end up with a loop. Let me put this on here. It's going to end up with a loop like this. Oh, this is for 1/8 inch cable, it says. Seems kind of big, but I guess it is what it is. So we slide 2 of these on, one after another, if we can. So I can get that in there. It's not going. All right, hold on. Come on. All right, little wire right there. Okay, well, there goes one. There goes 2. Then I loop this around. Of course, if this was for real, I'd have a spot marked. You just don't make it any length. Okay. So you should leave like a little bit out like that. And then I could pull this in. And pull this tight. Okay, that's pretty tight. Now this swaging tool works like this. You take one of the bolts out, either one. And what I want to do is I want to force this thing into this collar as much as possible. So I'm going to start on the back end, do the first swage, and then do this one next, because it'll elongate. So I put this like so. Get on there, will you? All right. This one's a little too, okay. It's a tiny bit awkward, but not really. Tighten these up, tighten them up. And what I'm trying to do is keep this face of the ferrule sort of even or recessed just slightly from this face, because you notice there's a lot sticking out on this side. I give one more little tug, make sure it's tight, and then I tighten these bolts. If you notice, they're grade 8. It's kind of like a go no-go gauge, because as you tighten it up, you're going to close this gap all the way up. When it's completely closed, then you know you got it. Put in a wrench like this so that I'm pulling together, see, as opposed to this where I'm pulling apart. Although there's not really a lot of effort involved. Almost there. Yeah, I guess I'll do this. Okay, see, it's all the way in. Okay, take one of the bolts out. Or maybe not even, because I'm only moving it over. I go to here. Get in there. Having this in a vise would probably be a little easier, but since most of you will be out on your boats doing this, I'm doing it out here by the boats. Alright, now there's a little bit of slack right there. Let's see if tightening up this side gets rid of that. Okay, here's the aluminum one so far, and see the ferrule is nice and tight, and it's nice and neat looking. Now some places will just stop, like this one. This is an old one off of a day sailor. One ferrule. The Aquarius has two, and well, that's what I would recommend. Now, what's going on is, next is, you want to put this one on, and you want to cover the end so there's nothing sharp. So what I figure is I can hold this open with a pair of vice grips, like there, and then take this grinder now I have a fairly clean cut. See, now I'm there. I take my tool again, and I want to force these together, so I'm going to do the outer one first. Out here. Still see that? Am I losing my audience? Okay. And my way of thinking is that I'll squeeze this end, it'll lock it to the cable, and then I'll squeeze the other end of this ferrule and it'll force it into the ferrule that I just did. That's all the way down. Take it apart. Well, not really take it apart, just slide it over. Okay, put that like there. That looks about right. I wouldn't use an impact gun trying to do this. Maybe an offset box wrench might be a little better. I wouldn't even use a ratchet. And you got to keep these threads lubricated. Okay. How's that look? Looks pretty professional. How's it look compared to this one? One is definitely clothesline worthy, the other is sailboat worthy. All right, so this was about $3.50 thrown away right here. My day sailor. I upgraded the shrouds, and I also put these spring-loaded pulleys in here with cleats back here, so that I could bring down the sails just from sitting here instead of like running into trouble like I did once before. That's another story. But upgrading the shrouds, I went from 3/32 to 1/8 inch, if you can see that, if I got the camera pointed in the right way. So what do you adjust them at? Do I go with the 1/8 or do I go to 3/32? Now, according to Loose, on a mast, on a fractional rig like this one, where the shrouds or the side stays are to the rear of the mast and the head stays to the front, making like a tripod, it's these cables set the tension for the head stay, and they say 20% of breaking strength. So 20% of breaking strength of what? Of the 1/8 inch cable? 20%, I would have be all the way down here, and I'd set the gauge to 28. That might be a little overpowering, so maybe I'll just go with the 3/32, and 20% would be to set the gauge at 18, because you know this is a lot thinner cable. So here's my loose gauge. I got this super cheap off of Amazon because it's metric, 2.5 millimeter, 3 and 4 millimeter. The scale numbers cross over. It's just these numbers that don't. So all I really need to know is the scale number that I want to do. So this is, I downloaded this, printed it out. So the scale number would be 18. But that includes like cable stretch and stuff like that. So I'm not going to adjust it. I did some adjusting the other day. So this goes like so. You clip it on the cable, and you give this a pull, and you hook it on, and you read the scale. Here's the scale. If you can see that, like right around 11.5. It was 12 when I put it on. And if you put some tension on it, it goes up. And so I could just adjust the turnbuckle with a pair of pliers, but I'm not going to. But that's it. And the Aquarius over there, that gets the higher numbers. When it's time for that one, those are going to get adjusted to 28 and 24. Backstay should just be snug, like no slack. If there's a roller furling, you use the backstay to adjust the headstay. Anyway, there it is. These are my babies, and I want to go sailing. Oh, one last thing. This chain here isn't for sailing. This is for lowering the mast or raising the mast without the mast rolling off to the side. I usually have a second person with me, but when I don't, it's nice to know that I could do it. So when the mast is at around 45 degrees and lower, it wants to swing out to one side or the other, which is pretty destructive. As well, I don't know if you can see the dents in that hinge up there, but it's pretty dented up. If this works good and I like how it's set up, then I can make this again in cable, which you just saw. I could make it out of 1/8 inch or smaller cable, the Home Depot stuff. Although the West Marine stuff is pretty reasonable. Anyway, next is to get this little Yamaha running and paint the truck and paint the backhoe, clean out the garage, cut the grass,